Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm your host Miss KK and this is The Wave. It is your weekly show that looks at topics related to personal, family and business finances, and our hope is that by the time we get to the end of this series, you are really better equipped to make sound financial decisions. If you are new here, thank you so much for stopping by. We really love having you on board. Please consider subscribing, and if you're already a returning subscriber, an awesome appreciation to you guys for always interacting in the comment section below as well as on my social media platform. I really appreciate having you guys. All right, in 2022, I've been wondering what's the first video that I'm going to be starting off with, and I realized where best to start than the most frequently asked question on my Instagram page. There've been kind of recurring themes, and it sort of gave me a feel that people are actually looking more beyond what I've already shared, and therefore I'm going to shed some light into some of those topics, and I'm going to start off with budgeting. I do know that a lot of us are aware of what budgeting is, and a lot of us are already doing some sort of budgeting, but it seems like we're actually just missing that X factor to actually give us the best out of our budget. So the first thing that I want to touch on is how to budget. What are some of the common components that should be in your budget, how to monitor your progress, as well as some of the goals that can be attached to your budget to make sure that you're actually getting somewhere. I'm going to also be sharing my personal story with budgeting and also overlaying it with some of the lessons learned and also some of the best practices that I've shared. But remember, whatever I share on this video is my personal view. You are free to decide what you are going to follow. Plus, it doesn't really constitute financial advice. And if you really are looking for a financial advice, you must just go seek for a registered one. Okay. So budgeting, right? It is just that process of you deciding how much money you make on a monthly basis, where that money is going to come from, how you are going to be saving that money, and what your cycle is going to be to do that process. So for a lot of us that are salaried employee, our budgets are likely to be on a monthly basis, and it's going to contain the bulk of our income are going to be from our salary, and if you have a minor side hustle, you might have additional income coming through. And on the expenses side or the outflow side, we really just have your daily expenses, your living expenses, and if you are savings or you have some loans, it's going to also involve you paying towards your savings or you paying towards your commitment. So those are the main two components in the budget. So really, the income part is not a problem because all of us already know how much we earn, we already know how much we are expecting in our bank account, and that income is likely to be fixed. The issue really comes with the expenses, where we are unlikely to prioritize the expenses, or we don't really know how to sort of segment, what's the right word? So sort of you put into compartment similar expenses and to sort of gauge where we should be with these expenses. So when I started off budgeting initially, I just used to write my budget in a notebook. Sorry if you hear sound in the background. I have a bunny and he seems to get frights recently. I don't know where it came from, so if you see him running around or if you see a weird sound, it's probably the bunny. But nonetheless, so for a lot of us, like I've mentioned, salaries are fixed, but the expenses part is where we need to deal with. And personally, I used to write my budget in a notebook, and most of the time I would throw away the notebook. Like I've mentioned on my Instagram yesterday, I have a habit of buying new notebooks. So every time I buy a new notebook, that means the budget is out of the window. So I stopped doing that. Then I started using a money expense tracker. There's quite a lot of money expense tracker. If you go on your Play Store or your iStore, you'll be able to find all this free money app tracker. It was going really well, and I stopped updating it at some stage. The only problem with money trackers are that it's not linked to your bank account. There are some that you can link to your bank account, but I generally don't link my bank account to anything, just to protect myself against cybersecurity. So I wouldn't really recommend that you actually link your bank account to a money tracker app. But I wasn't, for some odd reason, I just lost the interest in updating the money tracker, despite the fact that it's on my phone and I was using my phone regularly. So I thought that was going to get me to actually stick to updating this. But the work of just getting the receipts, going to the bank notification, etc., I just somehow lost the rhythm. So if you are considering a money tracker, they are also a good option. The other thing that I started also doing, which I'm actually currently doing, is using a budget in Excel. So I use my computer almost every day and I'm frequent in Excel, so it's so much easier for me to sort of add whatever categories that I want. So I have a template that I've actually shared with a few people on email. So if you are interested, you can leave your email in the comment below, then I'm going to share the template. It's a generic template that I've sort of developed, but there's so many expenses categories that are unique to your circumstances that you actually need to be incorporating. The main reason why I actually stuck to my Excel budget is because I was using what's called the jar system, and the jar system uses compartments or segments to sort of categorize your expenses, and that way it sort of helps you to see what portion of your salary is going to what. So the jar system, I don't recall all the categories of the jar system, but it has the living jar. So in the living jar, you put all your expenses that are related to your day-to-day living, your groceries, your water and electricity, your rent if you have. Then you have your investment jar. So there you put money that you're putting towards, investing, maybe, retirement investment, or if you are maybe investing into a business or shares, it goes into that category. Then you have your savings jar. This is normally to save towards short-term goals, and it's money that you can ultimately later invest, or you can ultimately later spend. So if you have a holiday that you are planning to go perhaps in December, that's where you put your money. Or if you are a student, like a trainee accountant, and you're trying to save for your board exams, so that by the time the board exams comes, you actually have enough money, that's where the category that you're going to be lumping that in. So that's the savings jar. Then you have the play jar. The play jar is for you to just make sure that you are not feeling so constrained in your budget, and you're actually living in the moment. This is where you put money for outing, you put money for a small trip, maybe a weekend away, or you put money for hanging out with friend or a bride, etc. So that's the play jar. Then some people have education jars. So if you are really that person that is looking forward to furthering your studies and you need to save money towards that, you can also put that in. And people also have sometimes they have the giving jar. The giving jar is actually where you put money to give to other people. And this is one thing that I want to hammer in 2022. We must stop giving impulsively. You must have a target to how much am I willing to give on a monthly basis, so that you know when to say no when the money is depleted. So black tax I generally include in this giving jar. So I generally have a budget, and I have some people that are actually in there. So I've budgeted to give my mother, I've budgeted I used to budget to give my cousins rent. So those ones, and I also used to budget to give a friend. So those ones were specifically in that jar. Then there was a small portion left. So everyone that comes with a minor request or a random request needs to fit in that giving jar. So whenever that amount is depleted, I unfortunately have to say no, unless of course the person's life depend on that. So generally that is the theme behind my Excel budget. So what I try to do is at the end of each month, I try to see what portion of my salary went towards the living jar, what portion went toward investing, what portion went towards saving, what portion went toward giving. So that way you are actually likely to see if you are spending 50% of your salary on your living expenses, are you actually going to be in a position to invest? If you are spending 10% of your salary on investing, is it adequate to take care of your needs in future? If you are spending 30% on giving, is it actually giving towards the right cause? Are you actually funding people's lifestyle? So that is the theme behind the jar method. You can Google it, it's available. There are various versions of the jar budgeting method, and that's what I've sort of used to develop my template. So that is the behind budgeting. How to actually now make the most out of your budget is to be able to budget, to put numbers to these compartments, to these various categories using actual data. So the reason why a lot of us, our budgets are failing is because we are thumb-sucking numbers. You just decide, maybe rent, you already know how much your landlord is going to charge you because you've sort of done some research. But food, you never really get down to how much you spend. You just put, I'm just going to put a 1,000 on food. But when you actually go to the shop, you don't even bear in mind that you are only allocating 1,000 for food, and you end up back from the shop with 2,000 worth of grocery. So what I normally tell people is use the first 2 months of the year to gather the data. If you are that person that don't know how much you spend on things, but for a lot of people that do track their expenses and do review their bank statement on a monthly basis, this shouldn't be a problem. So I'm going to link a video in the description, the one I did on reviewing your bank statement, because you really are going to get a lot of information from reviewing your bank statement, because you get to actually understand how much you've been spending on food for the last couple of months, how much you have been saving on the last couple of months, to help you inform your current budget so that you're actually putting accurate number in your budget. So make sure that you are actually using the right numbers and you're not thumb sucking those numbers. And most importantly, when it comes to savings and investment and all of that, make sure that you're using the right vehicle to save. So like I've mentioned, I've also done a video, I'm going to link it up in my description as well. I've done a video on using the right bank account. You can't be saving an emergency saving into a 32-day account, because if your parents were to die tomorrow, you would need that money immediately. So that money is not accessible. So you should actually be putting that money towards a call account so that when an emergency arises, you actually have access to the money. So it's actually making sure that in as much as you do know the compartments that are in your budget, in as much as you do know the actual figures that you should be putting to the various categories, you should also be using the right savings vehicles and the right investment vehicle to actually achieve your goals. And the last bit that I want to really cover with this whole topic of budgeting is actually doing budget versus actual. For those that have been following me on my Instagram or on my WhatsApp status, I've been doing a budget versus actual review. I haven't really been revealing the numbers because there's so many controversy around people feeling how we should handle that building. So I've just been sort of giving an overview of the budget versus actual, but not actually releasing the numbers. But nonetheless, that's a conversation for another day. So what you should be doing is you should be budgeting, and at some stage you should be reflecting on how you are tracking against budget. There is no point drawing a budget if you are not going to go back to it and reflect how much you actually planned to do and what you ended up doing. So if you are budgeting to spend 500 on electricity and you end up spending 800, perhaps your budget was actually flawed in the first place. If you actually get to a conclusion that your budget was under budgeted in the first place, next month when you do your budget, you're not going to be putting the previous month budget, but you're going to be putting the 800, because that is the true reflection of what you can actually expect to pay on electricity. On the other hand, sometimes you might go over budget, but there was maybe an emergency that wasn't budgeted for. That is fine. That is a once-off cost that you had to pay, but that doesn't mean it's going to be recurring. So at the end of each month, mainly before your new money comes in, you need to sit back, do a summary of how much you spend in each category and where are you going to get those numbers. You're going to get those numbers from reviewing your bank statement to actually see how much money you've been actually spending. So that's the high level sort of video on budgeting. The one thing I want to say in conclusion here, I've also done a video on effective payday habits. Most of our budgets actually go out of proportion because we don't have the good habits of someone that's going to be financially independent someday. Number one, we need to know how to handle our money around payday. I'm not going to reiterate what I've already said in that video. I'm also going to link that video up. One of the things is you need to make sure that you're not spending impulsively. You are giving enough time to your brain to process that you actually have the money. You are paying effectively your bills, like making sure that whatever can be paid with EFT, you are actually paying it with EFT, and so much. There's so much content in that video, so please do check it out. And lastly, please be patient with yourself. If this month you completely screw up your budget, don't just throw your budget around the window. Be determined, do a self-introspection, face the reality of why are you actually not sticking to the budget, because sometimes we are not motivated to do something if you haven't made that decision of actually being in good standing with your finances. You would not make that progress. So before you embark on this journey, really be honest with yourself whether it's something that you really want to do, and most importantly, please don't do an unrealistic budget, because those unrealistic budgets are actually what demotivates you, and you might just stop budgeting completely. So I hope you've learned one thing or two, and it is the first video of the year. My thought might be all over the place, and as the year picks up momentum, I hope to bring more structured video and to actually engage further with you. That's all I have from today's discussion. Again, thank you so much for stopping by, giving us your time to listen to this video. And if you haven't done so, please don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button so that you can be notified every time we upload a new video. And until next time, it is goodbye, and please stay safe. Bye-bye.